I'm joined here today by Katie Adkins and Jeff Marsh. So we're going to be talking all about summer strategies, some of the challenges that you might be facing as a food bank in the summer. Hear from Katie and Jeff about what's working, what's not, some strategies to kind of help cut through the noise and solve those problems in the summer. And then we'll get into specific channels, messaging tactics, and already thinking ahead to Giving Tuesday and year end, because obviously you have to start now for those to be impactful. So lots going on in the second half of the year, so I want to hear all about it from you guys. So quick intro for me. So I'm Isa Hasty. I'm the Senior Content Marketing Manager here at Feather. We will be sending out the deck and the recording tomorrow in your email inbox. So keep a lookout for that. I included my email here in case you have any follow-up questions, in case you have any specific questions about how Feather can help your food bank, or even if you have any ideas about like webinar topics or content topics that you'd like me to cover in the future, I am always open to that. So feel free to reach out. And then I will go ahead and let each of you do a quick intro, and then I'll go through some agenda items and then we'll dive into the conversation. So starting with you, Katie, welcome.
Hey, so I'm Katie Adkins. I'm the Director of Strategic Communication for the Food Bank for Central and Northeast Missouri. We're located in Columbia, Missouri, and we serve about 145 partner agencies and 200 school partners across a 32 county service area. So we have a big service area that is incredibly rural in some ways, but then we also cover some cities as well. So it's fun to think through some of those different ways to connect with different people across our service area. So I'm excited to chat today.
Awesome. Me too. And then Jeff, welcome. If you want to give a quick intro.
Yeah, my name's Jeff Marsh. I'm the web developer of the Free Store Food Bank. We are located in greater Cincinnati area. If you're not familiar with Cincinnati, it actually spans across 3 states. So we have Ohio, Kentucky, Northern Kentucky, and Southeast Indiana. We serve about 600. We have about a little over 600 agency partners that we work with, and we distribute about 47 million meals each year.
Awesome. Yeah, I know when you serve different states, it can get a little dicey with messaging sometimes. I've worked closely with another Feather user, talked to her. It's the Northern Nevada Food Bank, and they serve some areas in California too. But because Nevada's in the name, a lot of the time there's like a lack of awareness among the Californian audiences that that area is served as well, both among neighbors and donors. So kind of having to communicate that through messaging that's targeted is key. So. Cool. Okay, so just a quick overview of Feather, just for anyone who's not familiar. So Feather is the nonprofit digital marketing platform. I included just a bunch of different logos of organizations that we serve here. So we work with more than 1,500 nonprofits. Hopefully one of these resonates with you. Obviously, I've included the two wonderful food banks that are on here today, but we also work with a variety of different human services orgs, child services, animal services, all of that, as well as arts, cultures, and humanity organizations. So a lot of museums and orchestras work with us as well. And then I wanted to also, let me launch a quick poll here. So every Wednesday we send out a newsletter called the Good Marketing Brief. And if you would like us to go ahead and subscribe you to this, go ahead and put a yes here and we'll get you signed up. You don't have to do anything. I will just put your name on the list and you'll start receiving this. So this Wednesday we're taking a break. So tomorrow you won't be getting one, but if you put a yes, you'll start getting it next week. And it's just full of practical tips, templates, sort of industry news, everything that's happening in the nonprofit world, and then just good practices in terms of marketing, um, best practices, and yeah, practical tips and tricks. Cool. See lots of people already subscribed. Love to see that. Cool. Okay. Continue dropping those in, and I will get you subscribed to that if you hit yes. And okay. Now I'm just going to go through a quick agenda just so you all know what we're going to be talking about at a high level, and then we'll dive in. So we're going to be talking a little bit, like I said, about the summer challenges that food banks in particular face. What are some strategies to sort of overcome those barriers? Some outreach and messaging channels specifically that you all are using, how to secure match campaigns and really promote those through ads, through email messaging to get the most out of your match campaigns, planning for Giving Tuesday, so sort of getting a head start on year-end campaigns, and then just some ideas around how to tell the story of the impact of your organization, how to tell community stories and share that in ways that both respect privacy and sensitivity and all of that, but also still getting people to notice you and to care about your story. So sort of towing that emotional line of like wanting to appeal to people's emotions without oversharing. So I think that can be difficult sometimes when your mission is more sensitive, but it's very important in order to keep donors engaged and to keep that money coming in. And then dispelling some misconceptions around food banks. So specifically around the health and the nutrition of the food that food banks are providing. So I think a lot of people think of canned goods, but there's a lot more that goes into what food banks are providing to people. So some ways that you can kind of get around that and explain to the general public what it is that you're really doing. And then hopefully at the end we'll have some question or some time for Q&A, but feel free to drop questions in the chat as we go, and we'll get to them as we can. So let's go ahead and dive in. So yeah, now that you guys have introduced yourselves, I was hoping you could talk a little bit more about sort of your day-to-day, what your role is in marketing and communications, and kind of how that supports your organization's mission. So Katie, if you want to kick us off.
Yeah, sure. So, as part of the strategic communication team, we're very much a support function for all of the other departments at the organization. So, the strategic communication team has responsibility for being the first media contact and helping make sure that our entire digital presence is on brand. But we also provide support for our HR team to do internal communications and our programs team to support communications with the partner agencies that we connect with. And then for those partner agencies to help connect with neighbors. So it's a little bit of everything every single day, which is really great. And it allows us to be really thoughtful about creating very controlled uh, talking points so we can all continue, our entire office, our entire staff can continue to be really uh, really focused, because as we know, so many times there's so much noise that's happening in people's everyday lives. So when they start hearing those same messages over and over again, repeated across the organization, hopefully we can make a little bit of movement with some of our messages.
Yeah. Yeah, I think thinking through marketing, messaging, outreach, all of that, it puts you in a place where you're not only speaking to your audience, to those neighbors and donors, but also setting the tone internally for how everyone else at the organization is talking about the mission. So
Yeah,
it's a
and
really,
we're our best brand advocates as
yeah,
a team. So I think always keeping in mind that the way that your partners talk about you, the way that your team who's out driving talks about
yeah,
you, those are the things that can really make a brand.
yeah, absolutely. All right, Jeff, if you want to talk a little bit about your specific role and how you're supporting the org day to day and at a high level.
Yeah. So, I mean, my title says web developer, but how we are in food banks, you carry a multiple hats. So mainly in the online fundraising space, manage the Google grant setup and campaigns. We work with Feather, obviously, with some internal marketing strategies. We push that out for digital ads as well as our email campaigns. We do have a traditional marketing partner that works with us through direct mail as well as the some of the digital strategy, and just kind of focusing up mainly on branding, messaging, trying to raise as much money as possible. That's the ultimate goal.
Yep. Amen. Okay. So yeah, let's dive straight into sort of some of the summer challenges. So obviously summer is notoriously tough for food banks. A lot of the time, there's more need because kids are out of school, not receiving those meals at school. You might see a drop off in volunteers because people are busy, students are leaving town if you're in a college town. So I'd love to hear each of you talk a little bit about the challenges that your specific food bank is facing and how you sort of think about those challenges and some of the ways that you try to address them. So Jeff, let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, we have two two markets right now, like two pantries that it's our choice markets. So we do have physical locations outside of our partner agencies that we do see a lot of intake of clients personally. Might be a little bit different than some of the other food banks. Uh, so our challenge is definitely volunteers in the summer, but it's
Mhm.
also getting people excited enough to want to help during the summer. It's like during Thanksgiving, everybody wants to support us. At the end of the year, everybody wants to support you. Uh, School starts up, you kind of get a little lull of people really wanting to show interest. Um, and then in the summer it's even harder because that's just the break for everybody.
Right.
So that's for us is the challenge is to come up with creative ways in the summertime to somehow gain some sort of interest to develop a new strategy to bring in some acquisition or some new donors that we aren't just hitting up the same people over all the time. And I would say having monthly donors is always a good summer summer break of trying to convert some people that are one-time gifts, get them into monthly and utilize some sort of match to make it appealing to them.
Yeah, we'll get into some of what you said a little bit later because I know we're going to talk a lot about donor retention and some ways to do that. And I noticed on your website that you do a gift match specifically for people who sign up for monthly giving, which is actually a great way to incentivize that and kind of draw importance to, okay, you're willing to give a gift, but can you actually give a little bit less and do it monthly? We'll match that instead. So I thought that was a really creative way to drive that recurring giving. Yeah, Katie, could you talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you're seeing and how you think about that?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about volunteers too, because that's one of our bigger challenges as well in the summer. So, Columbia is a college town. University of Missouri is located here in Columbia, and so we're really reliant on our students who come in and help us throughout the semester. And summer, that obviously becomes far more of a challenge. We also have a pantry. It's called the Market, and to be able to provide a shopping like experience, it takes a lot of volunteers day to day. So we've set up a few different things that help us. Talking about an opportunity to engage a really targeted audience. We evaluate some of the volunteers that we were able to engage with this following or the previous summer who maybe haven't been able to come in during the school year. But it's really easy to take that smaller group and do some really bespoke messaging that allows us to say, like, hey, we haven't seen you in a while. Now is our biggest time of need. We're also really proactive about messaging for the summer because, like Jeff mentioned, people are really excited about volunteering, during the holiday season. It's a time when people are thinking about being around the table together and thinking about how grateful they are. Whenever we engage with volunteers in the winter and the holiday season, we also say, hey, remember, our hardest months for volunteers are, January and those summer months when students aren't around. If you can give us your time then as well, it's really, really valuable. And that brings some people back in too. But yeah, summer need is a thing that I think a lot of people talk about the need when students are out of school, the need for people to be able to sustain themselves when summer working hours might be more variable. So talking about need and partnering it with how volunteerism supports purchasing additional food is, I think, something that we share a lot too. A volunteer hour is worth approximately, I think it's like $33 now. And so when you talk about how many meals that can be turned into if we reinvest that money back into our mission,
Hmm.
it really gives a monetary value to that time, and it helps people understand, hey, a 2-hour shift, might not mean a lot to me, but it might be 80 meals at the food bank. It's a big deal.
Yeah, that's amazing. I had never heard that stat. Do you actually use that stat as like an impact statement in any of your messaging?
We do, yeah. We actually have a volunteer annual report that helps put some easy to understand numbers around what volunteerism means and what the value of all of the volunteerism across our organization has meant. And it allows us to reinvest, you know, $1 million back into purchasing food. That's a big deal.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I think also in this era of like not knowing how to reach younger donors, I think one of the challenges there is that younger people might actually not be in a place to give money, but a lot of younger people are willing to donate their time and their energy. And so I think tapping into like what volunteerism means, getting younger volunteers and making them feel valuable through equating their time to a dollar impact for the mission, not just like, oh, you came and volunteered and now we've done more things. It's like you're actually saving us money, and that is money that's going back into the mission. So that's really cool. That's really cool to hear that you're, yeah. Um,
Easy message too.
yeah, totally,
Yeah.
totally. Um, and then when you're talking about sort of re-engaging or reactivating those groups of previous volunteers from previous summers or other time periods and trying to get them to come back, are you doing that through, I guess, probably a combination of ads and email, but just curious if you run any email mapping campaigns around that, if it's mostly emails that are going to those people?
It's mostly emails,
Okay.
and then there's some in-person outreach. But email mapping ads would be great. I mean, there's a huge number of I guess we could call them lapsed volunteers that
Mhm.
we can reactivate who already have been in the facility and understand the way it works and understand the mission to some extent. So it's easier to get some of those people back in the door and then hopefully keep them here.
Yeah. For anyone in the audience who's not aware of email mapping, so this is a campaign type that Feather offers. It's available in other platforms as well. It's also called CRM retargeting. So no emails are sent as part of this campaign. You're using a list of emails as unique identifiers to then serve ads to people. So the same way as with awareness campaigns or retargeting ads where you're showing up with display ads as people are browsing the web, this is how email mapping ads show up as well. So you basically just select a list of emails that you want to target. So it might be, last summer's volunteers, it might be a previous event list of event attendees, something like that. So you have their emails and you want to reach them with ads. This means that they don't have to have visited your website recently. So with retargeting to serve people ads, they have to have come to your site and then you're retargeting them with those ads based on a site visit or website activity. So with email mapping, you just have to have their email address and then it matches up with their devices and then you can serve them ads. So it's a great way, like Katie said, to capture those lapsed people, lapsed volunteers, lapsed donors, things like that. So lots you can do with an email list with email mapping. So cool. And then let's see. Um, I wanted to talk a little bit about sort of specific messaging and outreach channels that you are using, but just to get the audience engaged a little bit. So let's hear from you guys. What tools or platforms are you using to stay connected with supporters right now? So if everyone who's in the audience wants to go ahead and um, drop in what channels are working for you, uh, maybe a specific platform that you're using that's working. Maybe it's a specific social media platform. Maybe it's a type of campaign, but kind of just want to get a sense of what's working for people. I feel like there's always a lag in the Zoom chat. Hopefully there's a lag and people are typing. Okay, well, I'll let people drop answers in. Hopefully we'll see a couple come through, but let's go ahead and talk. So I wanted to kind of talk specifically about the importance of tracking the activity on your website. So we'll talk about other channels that you all are using, but I wanted to kind of touch on the importance of having a pixel set up on vital pages on your site, being able to see who's coming to your website, what pages they're visiting, what they're doing, what they're clicking on, and then being able to serve them those ads once they leave. Because as we all know, lots of people come to a website to learn more, or they click on an ad, or maybe they get to you through organic search because they're looking for something similar, click to your website, maybe they read something on your homepage, read a blog, and then they leave, right? And you want to stay on their radar because they've shown some interest, they've shown intent. But if you drop off and they never hear from you again, chances are they're not going to become a donor, not going to become a volunteer. So ad retargeting is a really great way to capture those people and bring them back to your website. So I wanted to hear, again, just like in your own words, what that does for your organization to kind of have those tools available, have that ability to recapture people because they've shown intent, and the importance of sort of tracking that. Jeff, we can start with you.
Yeah, so the when we first heard about Feather and we kind of were going through the process of onboarding, one of the first things that was intrigued for us is the connection between, Razor's Edge to Feather and being able to finally get, some marketing tools talking to our actual database. And
Mm-hmm.
our database has, it's our major gifts team data that they have, but it's overall we've had this database for over 20 plus years, and this is really the first time we've been able to kind of retarget them in a way outside of just the standard email campaign or hey, let's create a campaign, throw a bunch of items up, make it seamless and cross our fingers and hope for the best and go look at Google Analytics. That was basically what we had. With Feather, Feather gives us the opportunity to, I can see the names, so we can create groups. We can tell, our major gift officers can say, hey, I want to know, is this is this particular person doing anything? And we can literally tie them to activity on the website, to whether they clicked on an email, did they see an ad, and then that gives them opportunities to call, email, or follow up with that donor and say, hey, you don't necessarily say exactly where we saw the information at, but we could send them a little more information about, like, say they visited our B-Tailor market and then they saw one of our ads and then they got an email and they clicked through to the email and maybe they didn't even do anything, but that donor now kind of Feather gave us some information that we can say, hey, they went to a specific page, so they were looking for something, and then they saw an ad that we gave them, that we retargeted them with, and we know kind of where they saw that from. And then if the email is just another part of it that allows us to just go through the whole timeline of I guess the campaign, or might not even be a campaign. It might be just multiple a flight in general that takes them through a funnel, and it just helps our major gift team be able to have more information to reach out to these people, and then it also allows us from a marketing standpoint to kind of start creating target groups based off of web activity and how we want to serve them, either ads or possible emails later down the road.
Yeah, no, that's all great stuff. I've heard that from a few different orgs that, the team that's working on developing and cultivating those relationships with major givers, you obviously have their email, their name, all that information in your database. And so you can track them and see exactly what they're doing and sort of speak to those things specifically. And then for people who are anonymous, because people who come to your site and then leave, Feather does not capture anything other than just tracking that visit. And so you can serve them ads on their devices, but you don't know their information until they opt in and give you, their email and their name and things like that. But the goal is obviously to get there. And so to kind of continue serving them ads and get more personalized, like you said, Jeff. So once people have visited, your donate page twice and not just your homepage, you know that they're interested in donating. And so you can serve them cart abandonment ads saying, hey, did you forget something? Hey, complete your donation. And so kind of getting really specific with the targeting and with the segmentation to try to get those people to give their information. So then you can send them emails and you can serve them other types of messaging because you do have their contact information. So yeah, lots of different ways that I think Feather helps you sort of visualize that journey of each individual person. And obviously, you're not, unless they're a major donor, you're not going to be going in and digging into each individual journey, although that is kind of fun. You can kind of see exactly where people came from and what they clicked on. But the idea is to set things up in a really automated way where you know that you have campaigns set up where people, once they reach this trigger point, they are then seeing these ads, and that's going to guide them to this page. And then, setting up the flow so that people are sort of taking the steps that you want them to toward converting and signing up for an email newsletter and signing up to volunteer, things like that. Yeah, Katie, if you want to talk a little bit about how you feel retargeting helps you just stay in front of people year round.
Yeah, I mean, I was specifically gonna also mention like auto send, smart send, like drip campaigns, being able to get the right information to the right person at the right time. Making sure that they are um, getting the information that they need from you when they need it most. So like, when we're thinking about like a smart send campaign, one thing that we have that's going to be coming up this fall is we have this really fun and engaging 12-hour food and fun drive where we're out from 6 a.m. till 6 p.m. We get really great community engagement. We have amazing media coverage. We have lots of peer-to-peer fundraising that day, but it's also a day when it is really effective to just keep in front of people with email too. And so being able to remind people who maybe have visited your giving page but haven't given before that 6 p.m. deadline, that the 6 p.m. deadline is coming up. So you can do a smart send campaign so that you're doing your cart abandonment 2 hours before the close of that particular event. It just helps keep you right in the forefront of people's minds, especially during that day when it's so important. We also geofence the spaces that we're in during that day. So we continue to, like, if somebody walked by us at the grocery store, they might get an ad from us later that day, which is always really, really nice to be able to just kind of do some surround sound marketing with your folks. But another thing that I will add that I love about being able to kind of track what's happening on our website, I feel like the engagement that we've gotten on our website over the last several years has really informed the way we talk about giving. We have started to create sort of giving themes where we have different topics that we talk about. Not that it cuts anyone off from the rest of our mission, but if people really, really care about child food security, they may care about other things like educational opportunities for kids that have to do with the food bank. And we can kind of serve them these giving themes based on where they've been on our website. And it's just a really nice way to be able to make the mission really meaningful for each individual that is part of our giving family. So yeah, I love being able to see where people have been, what's most engaging to people. Sometimes it's surprising, the different journeys that people take too. And
Yeah.
so it's good to be able to get that little bit of insight to help guide what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think like you said, being able to serve that really targeted messaging along the journey based on what you're seeing people do is just really important because people expect a personalized experience with brands. And at the end of the day, you might not call yourself a brand, but you are a brand, and so you want to make sure you're thinking like a brand and keeping that kind of cohesive, consistent journey across platforms. Wherever someone's seeing you, you want them to connect an ad that they are seeing on Facebook with an ad that they saw on recipes.com with, the emails that they're getting in their inbox from you. So just making sure that everything feels cohesive and yeah, like one brand journey. Okay, and then let's talk. Katie, I know when we chatted before this, you mentioned your neighbor newsletter and how you're using Feather email and then texting to kind of get that message out to people who might not see it in the inbox. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we recently did some surveys with folks that we serve out of the market, which is our pantry in Columbia, to see how people were most interested in getting information about the market. And we were not surprised that people were interested in texting and email, but we had this new monthly newsletter set up for the folks that shop at the market. We didn't have a way to get it to them through text, and so it was really easy to just serve them that feather link to our email through text. And then part of that is ensuring that they're getting signed up for the email version as well, so that we can connect with them later down the road if it's not a monthly email. But we've been really surprised and pleased at the number of people who are very interested in getting this information. So the information in the newsletter is as simple as here are all of the events that are happening at the market this month. Here are the special distributions that we have. Here are a few reminders about, nutrition, or here are some opportunities around different types of community education that you might be interested in. So the information is pretty concise, but it's great to be able to build a relationship with folks in the digital space too, because so much of the way that we've been able to connect with shoppers is just right in the market when they're shopping, and then not again until they may have to come again. This gives us a little bit more breathing room to create a relationship.
Great. I just realized I'm still sharing the screen. I'm going to actually go ahead and stop sharing this so that hopefully it's just a better experience to just see our faces on here. Okay, cool. I think it was probably just a tiny little box in the corner of whoever was talking, so this might be a little better for the audience. Okay, let me just check the chat real quick. Okay, so Nicole, I see you asked what a pixel is. So that's a tracking pixel to track those website visits. So we call it a super pixel at Feather. It's basically a snippet of code that you put on whatever pages you want to track. So it's a super easy process to get set up. You just add that line of code onto the back end of whatever pages you'd like to track. So that might be, it should be all of the important pages where people are coming to visit, and that shows some kind of intent. So like an event registration page, your donate page, home page, about page, all of these things. And so, yeah, maybe Katie and Jeff, if you want to talk a little bit more about the pages that you do track and sort of the importance of understanding what website activity means on those different pages. Jeff?
We currently, as of right now, use WordPress for our main website, almost all our websites. So we have the pixel kind of tracking everything. So we're able to see pretty much anything. So basically, for example, most of the time, our campaigns start off with some sort of email campaign that usually starts the driving of force to the websites. We do have social graphics as well, but the email is our heavy driver to the website to get it going. And you can basically, if they land on our website, we will see every pathway they go. It depends on what we chose to set up to drive them to particular, to particular events that would trigger, either capturing it's usually to capture a donation, get them into some sort of goal, and our goal is they made a donation, and then we can follow them up after that. We do have other goals of submitting applications or surveys, things like that as well. But we can see exactly what journey they took to get there. We can see if they jumped off and then jumped back on. So the pixel seems to be pretty straightforward. Once we installed it, it kind of just started working. And once we plugged in the Razor's Edge, turned on the Razor's Edge connector, and kind of got that all set up, it's kind of been fairly seamless since then.
Good to hear. Katie, any thoughts?
Yeah, so we also we use WordPress. Our pixel is across our entire website, so we can see, activity on any web page. Our donor database is donor perfect, and it actually doesn't integrate with Feather. So our experience is a little different, where any main giving page that we want to be able to capture information on the super pixel has to be embedded there, and we have to have it kind of set up on the feather end too, which is not challenging. And so that's something that we don't do for any of like our food and fun drive pages, but we do it for our event pages and our main giving pages. I will also mention, I feel like I'm always the person that mentions this and other people don't talk about it as much, but there's a nice way to get a little bit more qualitative data on any of the pages on your website, and it's conversations, feather conversations. You can have this little pop-up that comes up on any particular web page. It's based on the URL. So typically we would have one on our volunteer page, and it just asks a simple question. It can be whatever you set it to. We've asked questions about what food means to people. We've asked questions about why people volunteer. And it's another way to kind of get some nice theming that speaks to a person who may be signing up to volunteer or to donate or take whatever action you're interested in, that allows you to target it just a little bit more. So I'm a big fan of conversations. I think you've heard
Yeah.
that before.
No, I know. I love that you brought it up. I had at the end of my list to ask you about that, so I love that you brought it up before I didn't even have to ask you to plug it. I know that one of the ways you've used it in the past is to get, like you said, to offer people like what does food bring up for you? Like what feeling does that evoke? And then kind of using their responses in your messaging and in your follow-up. So I think that's a really cool way to like segment your audience, and conversations makes it really easy to do that. So once you get those responses, you can actually automatically create groups from the responses and then run campaigns targeting those specific groups based on what they told you. So really
Yeah, it
cool.
was even easier than I expected it to be. And that's another perk of using it, especially if you have a small team. Being able to do those targeted audiences really, really easily and quickly.
Yep. Cool. All right, let's get to, I wanted to talk a little bit about gift match campaigns. So I know that both of you have experience running these and promoting them. So wanted to kind of talk a little bit about what kind of works for you when it comes to securing those gift match opportunities. I know we've talked a little bit about, ways to kind of maximize it. So it could cap out at $1,000, but you can really like get a lot of traction out of that still by promoting it over a course of several days, things like that. So what are some ways that running a gift match campaign works for you, ways to break it up and really get the most out of it? Katie, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I think one thing that people think is that the gift match has to be just like an exorbitant amount, and I find that even smaller matches can be really really motivating for people. If you were to get, like, let's say that we have a campaign in our community that lasts 30 days. It could be very easy to secure a smaller donation that would be match or several donations that could allow you to have a match of even $500 to $1,000 a day. And if someone's gifted $5,000, that could last 5 or 10 days, but still engage people and sometimes re-engage people throughout that entire process, which is really nice. For a capital campaign, we received a pretty substantial gift. But as we kind of made our projections for what each campaign was going to result in, we were able to break it up in a way that made it really motivating for people, but allowed us to take advantage of the entire match, and it lasted throughout our entire campaign. And that was both email and direct mail.
Yeah, that's amazing. And as everyone probably is aware, gift match campaigns are really impactful for driving more donations. So not only do they make it more likely that somebody will give, but they actually increase the donation amount on average, because I think people do that mental math and they think, okay, if I give this much, it's doubled. If I give a little bit more, that's doubled. So it really can go a long way. And I know food banks do run a lot of gift match campaigns, so I'm sure a lot of people in the audience have experience with this. But yeah. Jeff, any insights from you on what works or maybe what doesn't with gift match
Okay.
campaigns?
Well, you kind of took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say we run a lot of matches. So we have, I mean, we before even Giving Tuesday was a thing, we had a double your dollars day. Day kind of sound like Katie. You said you have kind of something like that. So really, our major gift officers spend all year trying to gather a you know basically a bucket of money that we can use for marketing campaigns to put these matches together. And you know, we try to put together based off of season. Seasons seem to be the motivator for a lot of our matches, like spring. So we're going to do a spring match, or you know, the holiday match, or December. We're going to run this all the way up to New Year, and then maybe and then we'll get sponsors. We try to get some sort of sponsor that will it'll be like a sponsored hour that will triple the match, and it'll all kind of go along with the messaging of whatever email goes out at that time, or um, it's basically the same concept. I do like the what Katie was saying about it doesn't have to be a huge match for it to make sense. I think people see the Giving Tuesdays and the big days and go, "Oh man, it's got to be $100,000 or nobody's going to do anything."
Yeah.
Uh, in theory, you could have a $20,000 match, and you know, people are going to do it because the math makes sense. Um, so that's kind of been we love them, and we do probably way too many.
I mean, can't have too much of a good thing.
Yeah, we would match everything if we could.
Yeah, love it. And then I don't know if this really is a problem for Food Bank, just because I know that you guys really do lean into gift match campaigns. But if you had any advice around securing those relationships, just in case there is anyone in the audience who is thinking like, oh, I don't feel like I do enough gift match campaigns, but don't really know where to look in terms of partnering with sponsors, do you have any advice for them?
I
Go ahead,
think
Kate.
I think we typically, find that people are really motivated by offering a match campaign, and it can be really useful to just. I think it's not always something that people think about first thing. Like, um, groups may not recognize the awareness that they will get for their own brand with those kinds of campaigns. But I think when you share statistics around, how it increases giving, how many people are more interested in brands that are viewed as philanthropic, those kinds of things, it can be really helpful to just sell them the matching opportunity. And we do quite a few of them too, but when you pose them around events or specific needs, it still speaks to people.
Yep. Jeff, anything to add there?
Um, I would say it just kind of reminds me of like relational marketing. Like
Yep.
our our major gift officers are kind of doing the same thing we're doing with marketing. We're pitching an idea. Hey, this
Hmm.
makes sense. Help us out. They're going to a donor that maybe already has they've already bought into the idea. They're already a part of our donor process, and they've already dedicated a certain amount of money. And then it's up to us to kind of tell them where to put it. So
Yeah.
usually a match will uh, kind of makes it a little more impact than just cutting a check for a certain amount of money. They'll be like, "Oh, okay, like
Hmm.
this will help you guys raise more. Okay, let's do it." And then we just go to them and ask for it.
Yep. Awesome. Cool. Okay, let's dive into donor retention and kind of getting those sustainers. I wanted to ask the audience, we've got a quiet group today, but if anyone wants to drop in something that you've seen work when it comes to getting recurring donors. So maybe you have something set up like Jeff has on his website where you're matching gifts for people who sign up to be a recurring donor versus a one-time giver. Maybe you have an email drip series set up that's running to people who give once and then trying to bring them on board to give regularly. So yeah, drop any ideas that you've found work or anything you've tried out for sustained giving. But let's go ahead and dive in. So what are some of the challenges that you guys face around sustained giving and some strategies that you might be testing out or planning to run, Katie?
I think a challenge is that, like Jeff mentioned earlier, there's a lot of giving that happens around the fall season or the holiday season, but not necessarily throughout the year. And so, one, being really forthcoming about why sustained giving is so valuable to the organization, not just once, but pretty relentlessly sharing that message is
Hmm.
helpful. And then two, I think looking into your donor database and understanding how you can target messaging. So if somebody has given, if somebody gave $100 in 2024, that's really close to being a $10 every month gift, a $10 sustaining gift. And so targeting them with messaging about the value of, one, like thanking them for their gift, and two, asking them if they'll be a sustainer. If they do transition to being a sustainer, one, that's great for your organization financially because of the consistency, but two, it's also 20 more dollars than they gave the previous year. So you're kind of helping boost your donors in a really easy way with one simple targeted message. And obviously that would be multiple messages, but the same line, become a sustainer.
Hmm. Jeff, anything you found works for you guys?
Oh, I know that we originally the first original initiative to transform a one gift into a sustainer was a intercepting light box when they would go to give the gift. It would be basically say, hey, do you want to give this one gift? Or if you make it, a monthly gift, it'll do this. And, and it did work, and it took a while. And we had to also com convince, leadership and let them know, like, hey, sustainers are smaller amounts now, but as it gathers like a snowball, then
Hmm.
you have every month this consistent amount. Because with a lot of the stuff that we do on our marketing side in the past was big giant events to try to get a bunch of money. So
Yep.
the matches helped and all that thing. So in theory, now that they have seen that the sustainer group has grown significantly and we have a good solid sustainer group and they see the value of it, that we now kind of put sustainer campaigns in between other major campaigns. So kind of like when the lull is between some major events,
Hmm.
we we push the monthly in between that. And then we have someone that is dedicated for, we have a monthly gift officer that focuses on that relationship. We'll put their face in front of them in emails and
Hmm.
campaigns and things like that, so they know they have a face to it. Kind of like we just treat them like it's another special group now, where before it was kind of like we were just gathering them up.
Yep.
You
And then
can,
that pop up. Go ahead,
sorry, I
Katie.
was just going to say you can add another face to it by looking at your longest sustained giver and see if they would be interested in, carrying that message for you in email or ad space or your newsletter or whatever it is. Because we have people who have been sustained givers for like 20, 25 years. It adds up so quickly, and being able to, say, this is what they've given over time, this is how many meals it's provided. And then having them take the lead on a message and they can say, join me in being a sustainer. It's just such a nice way to get a longtime donor involved. And if they've been giving to you for 20 years, they'll probably be willing to do that.
Definitely, yeah. I'm sure they wouldn't mind tooting their own horn there too. Yeah, I love that idea of just like bringing people's faces and those real stories into your marketing too. That can go a long way. Even just imagining like an email header with a picture of them and a testimonial or like an ad, you can do a lot with visuals there. Um, and then Jeff, I was going to ask, so for that like pop-up that you mentioned that comes up when someone is going to donate and it asks them if they want to be a monthly giver instead, is that for everybody? Is that based on like an amount that they put in? Or is that just
Um,
that pops up when they're on the page?
it was like a little JavaScript thing that would basically take the algorithm of whatever the amount they chose and would say
Hmm.
divide this up by 12 and give them the option to make it with a little button that says make this a sustainer, or
Hmm.
underneath it, continue with one time gift.
Yeah.
So it wasn't it was for everybody basically.
Okay. Okay. But yeah, customized obviously based on that
Mhm.
amount that they're willing to give. And Katie, I know when we chatted, you said something about wanting to lean in the direction of like running some ads around people who have given in the past, given like under $100, asking them to become a monthly donor because if they give $10 a month instead of a one, whatever gift that they gave, that could end up being 120 if they sign up for that. So yeah, can you talk a little bit more about that and the messaging around that?
Yeah, so we have just found that we have a relatively big group of donors who, each year or, year upon year are giving around $100. But it might be at one time a year. That number might go down because the number, like our gift level has gone down slightly as people feel the crunch with, bills and everything. So being able to market to that group specifically and say, your most valuable gift to us would be being a sustainer for $8 or $10 a month,
Yeah.
is a really easy sell because it's about the level of what they're getting giving now. It's just in a different configuration. And I think if you can sell the fact that hunger is consistent, that there is no season for hunger, you can also kind of make that connection to that's why your monthly gift is important. And you can do it in an email series and ads and, any number of ways, but being very targeted so you're hitting that specific group, I think for us is something that we're working towards.
That's great. Yeah, and obviously we live in a world where people are pretty accustomed to subscription-based models and things like that. So the idea of giving monthly is the same as like paying your bills monthly,
Yeah.
breaking up a
Netflix.
big payment,
Yeah.
Netflix, all of these platforms that we subscribe to and pay a monthly fee. So yeah, thinking about giving in the same way could appeal to people in general and younger donors potentially who have less to give each month but still want to make an impact. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Giving Tuesday. And we're coming up on time, so I want to kind of just get your thoughts on what Giving Tuesday is looking like, how that's shaping up, and how you're starting to think about planning for that. Jeff, let's start with you.
Oh boy. Yeah, so yeah, we're kind of odd because we have a very large event that happens in during Labor Day, and it's like this big giant campaign that runs. It used to start July 1st and run to Labor Day. We're pushing it for a little more urgency and doing it for like a late push
Yep.
on it. So that kind of takes up a little bit of time, probably what most other food banks would probably start really focusing on, like how to get Giving Tuesday going. But then we're also unique because we have our own uh, kind of like established day that we fundraise for, and it's about the same time of year. It was always a push right before December would kick in, and everybody would start doing that last minute gift for taxes and stuff. So it
Hmm.
was kind of like a tie-in of like, hey, how can we get them to all do something before they go and do it? Because they're going to do it again probably at the end of the year. So Giving Tuesday is we're working on it. We got campaigns for it, but we have a lot of other things that we focus on.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty common thing where you have a lot going on outside of just Giving Tuesday around
Yeah.
that time. So Katie, I want to hear from you real quick before you talk about that because I know people are going to start to hop off, but I want to kind of wrap up the conversation and not end early. I just wanted to ask anyone in the chat to drop a one if you'd be interested in learning a little bit more about how Feather can help you do a lot of what Katie and Jeff have talked about today. So specific campaign types that we've talked about, how you can get your food bank in front of more people in the community, drive those website visits, drive those donations. So Feather is set up to help you do all of that, to gain awareness, to really broaden your reach, and to cultivate those relationships with donors, with volunteers. So go ahead and drop a one if you'd like us to reach out and have a more personalized conversation about your organization's goals. So drop a one in the chat if you'd like to talk to us more about that. But Katie, yeah, if you want to talk a little bit about what Giving Tuesday looks like for you. I know you guys have another major giving event around that time, so there's a lot of
We do.
conflicting things.
Yeah. So our city, Columbia, has a widespread event called Como Gives that kicks off on Giving Tuesday and then continues throughout the month. So we do sort of two sets of creative for Giving Tuesday. We have the Giving Tuesday content that is Como Gives content that's specific to Boone County, which is where we are, and then we also have content that is specific to the other counties in our service area. And so when that kicks off, that is largely just out there based on zip codes. So we have it kind of straight down the middle, and then as Giving Tuesday continues, we do the majority of our fundraising that day. As the rest of the event for Columbia continues, we actually primarily boost our partner agencies because they also take part in that collective fundraising effort. And Como Gives is an amazing opportunity for some of the smaller nonprofits in the community to raise a lot of funds that help sustain them throughout the entire year. We're a larger organization, so we do a lot of fundraising outside of that time. So that's really why we boost our partner agencies. But that actually is really beneficial for us because most people don't know the number of partner agencies that we have in the community. We have 30 partners just in the city where we are. And so it's a really nice time to be able to highlight our collaborative work with them. And then they also get a boost too.
Yeah, absolutely. And what are some ways to kind of break up the messaging, around a time like this where people are hearing from you a lot and you need to continue reaching them, but you don't want to bombard them or you want to kind of offer value, break up the messaging, break up the noise a little bit? What are some tips that you guys have found work for those busy seasons?
You want me to go,
Yeah,
Jeff?
you can go, Katie.
It's really hard to make sure that you are continuing to move the needle throughout that season. So typically throughout the fall season, I feel like you can have one main ask for people, especially when they're hearing from you so often. So trying to keep the main thing the main thing. The supplementary message can change as much as you need to or be themed or whatever so it fits, but there should be a main thing that you're seeking for that particular fundraising season. And that's what works for us. That's not right for everybody, but with our events, they're so broad. They're speaking to so many different people in the community that's what we find works really well. And then you can supplement that with any kind of targeted messaging that you have.
Great, Jeff.
Ours is probably spend more money. Like I don't know. I mean that we partner with our media partners, to tap into their audience. We try to that we do email campaigns through them, and they'll
Mhm.
they'll send things out to their list, and we do the same with their website, and we'll take over their website with some ads, and
Mhm.
it's hard. I mean, ultimately the more money you spend, the more the more you're going to be seen. So,
Yeah.
uh, and that's our message to all our donors that want to help us get the word out is give us more matches and more money.
Yeah, give us more incentives to
Yeah,
so people don't get annoyed by the messaging and they
yeah,
actually are excited to give. Yep. And I think just even refreshing your creatives, refreshing your ad copy, things like that can really help keep it feeling fresh and new and not repetitive. Okay, I have one more quick topic I wanted to cover because I think it's an interesting one, and then I will let you guys go. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the misconceptions around nutrition. So I know that, a lot of people think that food banks are all about just giving canned food. That's what we often see imagery of when it comes to food bank imagery. So can you talk a little bit about how you're trying to shift this narrative and educate people about nutritious food distribution? Katie, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I feel like summer is the perfect time to be doing that, especially because, at least at our food bank, we have a lot of amazing garden giving that happens. It's really easy to feature people on social with those items that they're bringing in fresh from their garden. We have lots of farms that partner with us, especially during, this season where, we can capture them bringing in donations of fresh items. And then really focusing on nutrition education for us has been big. We've been lucky enough to be able to have someone on staff who focuses on just how to share nutrition education and recipes that are healthy with our partner agencies based on the items that we have in our warehouse. And so highlighting that on social, on the web. I'm always also really mindful with any creative that I'm doing that's ads, unless it's specific to a food and fun drive where shelf stable items are better. I always try to feature people holding fresh produce. Like it's just a good way to show, it's strength-based messaging. It shows the abundance of the items, but also it shows that we do share fresh items and that a huge amount of what we share is fresh.
Yeah. Jeff, is this a challenge that you guys kind of face?
I mean, we have two pantries, and we do make a valiant effort to make it a kind of like a grocery store and put some fresh,
Yep.
have the fresh items there. We do have posters and handouts and social media posts about uh, health and all, staying healthy and eating the proper things. And we promote all the donations that we get. We're blessed with having some really good uh, partners here in Cincinnati where their headquarters are here.
Mhm.
So we got a major grocery store that it's their headquarters here. So we get a lot of help with them. They help us with a lot of with the healthy options that we get in our market, as well as we have a very large food industry uh, company and their headquarters is here. So we get partnered with some really good food. I would say Cincinnati's probably blessed with a lot of nutritional food that we get in our markets.